Hi, everyone, and welcome to DBT Developer Day. We are going to get started soon. As we're waiting for more folks to join, why don't people share in the chat where they're joining in from? Great. Love to see it. And as always, very happy to have people joining from around the country and around the world. Okay, before we get started, some really quick housekeeping. You'll see in Goldcast that there's a couple chat-oriented buttons. Use the Q&A chat tab for all of your questions related to the content that we'll be sharing, and a DBT product expert will answer them for you. You can use the chat tab for all banter, for connecting with others, for highlighting what you like from the presentation, and so on. But if you don't ask any of your product-related questions there because they might get missed. This always gets asked, but we will be sending out a recording within 24 hours of the event. And then also be sure to take our survey at the end of the session so we know what you enjoyed and how to continue to improve these events for next time. All right, this is your pit crew, your cast of characters for today. I'm Alexis Jones. I'm a director of product marketing here at DBT Labs. And I'm going to be joined by three of my colleagues on the product management team who have really exciting demos and updates to share about how DBT is helping improve developer experience. Jeremy Cohen's a principal product manager, Elias DeFeria is a product manager, and Grace Goheen, a product manager for DBT Core. All right, so I'm going to kick us off today, framing today's event, which really is all about how DBT is innovating to build best-in-class developer experience for our core users. And that's one that helps users improve feedback loops, reduce their cognitive load, and get into a flow state. From there, I'm going to pass it off to Jeremy and Elias to give some exciting updates about progress on our SDF integration. Then Jeremy's going to share exciting updates about DBT Copilot, our native AI assistant. And then we'll close it out with Grace on what's coming to the next minor version release of DBT Core 1.10. Okay, and then one last, but wait, there's more. Before getting into the content today, want to make sure that everybody saves the date for our next two major launch events. So the first is going to be on May 28th, our DBT launch showcase. This is a virtual event where we'll be sharing all of the latest features across the platform that empower users to improve their workflows. And then also Coalesce 2025 is happening again in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, but also online. So save the date, October 13th through 16th. And in the docs tab at Goldcast, there'll be links for both of these things. All right, great. Let's get into it. So like I mentioned, today's event is all about the new features that we're shipping that will create a stellar developer experience for data practitioners. And I think it's helpful to go back to the start and to go back to our mission, which really, since our founding 8 years ago, has been to empower data practitioners to create and disseminate organizational knowledge. The work that you do to build, test, and deploy high-quality data assets is foundational to your organization's data initiatives. So even though our platform surface area continues to grow to allow data analysts to bring their business context to bear by participating in the dev workflow in governed ways, and also to make it easy for the downstream business users that these data assets support so that they can identify new use cases for data or to optimize data platform costs in the process. The reality and the truth is that our number one priority will always be to maintain DBT as the best place for analytics engineers and for data practitioners to get their job done and to standardize data workflows. DBT should be a platform that each and every one of you is delighted to log into every day to do your job. And so a big part of that means that we deliver a best-in-class developer experience so that you can support the teams downstream of you to win with data. And I'll go into this in just a sec, but spoiler alert is that it turns out that what's good for the developer is also good for the organization. So better DevX for you equates to better business outcomes for your company. Today's event is really focused exclusively on showcasing how we're innovating to make the developer experience in DBT best in class in the industry. And it's about showing how we're making it easier for DBT developers to work faster, more efficiently, and without ever worrying that they're sacrificing data quality in the process. So jumping on the trend from earlier this year, you may have seen on your socials about ins and outs for 2025. Here's our view of what's in and what's out for the modern developer experience. And I think that anybody who's a developer that's on this call can empathize and relate to many of these things. So starting with what's decidedly out. Interruptions, getting pulled out of your flow, having unrealistic deadlines set on you that aren't rooted in any reality of what's actually possible given your tooling or the data that you have access to. Adding on to that, it's friction with the developer tools that you use. It's having to resort to manual and tedious time-consuming work. It's having excessive build times, the kind of thing where you push enter to run your pipeline and you decide to get up and have coffee and go for a walk around the block because you know that even by the time you get back, it'll still be running. And then it's getting a handle on maintaining and understanding your complex infrastructure. These are all places that we do not want to be as developers. What's in? A lot of the inverse of those things. So having an environment that promotes you getting into your flow state and staying there. Having clear delineation of tasks and understanding how the work that you're doing ties back to the business goals. Having very well integrated systems that integrate natively into wherever you decide to work. Being able to lean on AI to expedite and augment your work. Having well-organized code and well-documented code. The confidence that you can have pain-free releases. Release something on a Friday afternoon, let's say, and know that it's not going to destroy your weekend. And then having these unified workflows and squashing silos, both in terms of the tech that you use, but also in terms of the people that are interacting with the data products that you're creating. And the stakes are really high for getting this right. There's a lot of recent industry validation, even in just the past few months, that strongly correlates a better DevX with better business outcomes. So the first is related to developer productivity. This stat comes from Atlassian's 2024 State of DevX report, but they found that over 2/3 of developers lose 8 or more hours a week due to inefficiencies. So that's an entire workday lost because of inefficiencies in the developer experience. The second is on business results. So the ability to have higher velocity, so more frequent deploys, shorter lead times, have been proven to lead to outsized market performance in the magnitude of 2x in terms of how a company is positioned competitively against those that aren't able to embrace this type of velocity. Next is data quality. So our own State of Analytics Engineering report, which we're about to publicly publish this year's findings to, found that for the second year in a row, data quality is the #1 challenge for developers when they're preparing data for analysis. And complexity of modern environments and tooling is a major contributor to this challenge. So having siloed data, fragmented data literacy, lack of clear context, those things all create headwinds with respect to data quality. On employee satisfaction, so another finding from Atlassian's State of DevX report is that good DevX is critical for employee satisfaction and retention. 86% of leaders, so nearly 9 out of 10, reported that they know that attracting and retaining talent is impossible without a good developer experience. So getting this right at the organizational level is imperative for maintaining a competitive edge of finding and retaining good talent. And on the topic of talent, AI adoption. So developers want the ability to embrace modern tooling and workflow accelerants. They want to learn new skills, among which embracing AI is at the top of the list. So modern DevX tooling has to incorporate AI accelerants. And there's good news here. So our State of Analytics Engineering report that's coming out in a few weeks showed that data budgets are up and AI is decidedly the largest area of investment. We found that 70% of data developers are already using AI for code development, and we think that this really is just scratching the surface of what's possible. So what do the building blocks of a great developer experience look like? This framework, this trifecta, has been popularized by GetDX, which is an organization that's on a mission to invent better ways of measuring and improving developer productivity. And many software development and analytics development lifecycle companies will harken back to this framework. So they state that there's 3 main characteristics of a great DevX. The first on the bottom left is feedback loops. Feedback loops allow for continuous improvement through learning and adjustment. So the ability for users to deploy, to learn, to quickly iterate and deploy again, and to continuously have that flow. The second is promoting a manageable cognitive load. So this is achieved through having well-organized code, easily accessible documentation, structured definitions, even in highly complex environments. And then the combination of these things gets users into that utopian flow state where we all want to be, which is the ability to move fluidly through tasks and stay completely engrossed in the task that you're in. So when you're in this flow state, interruptions are minimized, productivity and enjoyment are maximized. And taking all this into account, in our view, data developers need tooling that empowers them to do these two seemingly paradoxical things. The first is to have velocity. That's to move faster, to iterate rapidly. Again, going back to rapid deployment, getting that fast feedback and embracing modern accelerants in the process. But importantly, they need to balance this speed with correctness. So they need guardrails to ensure proper data quality. In fact, they need the confidence that they can move quickly and execute fast without any additional fear that they're breaking something in the process. And you may have noticed a bit of a race car theme for today's event. We like our themes here at DBT Labs. Going with that analogy, it's really about having the fastest possible lap times while also ensuring that your car isn't going to swerve off the road and that your safety belt is properly engaged. Start your engines, because delivering a best-in-class DevX and DBT that helps users balance these two things, speed and quality, is exactly what today's event is all about. So in just a second, I'm going to pass it over to Jeremy and Elias to give you a demo of something super exciting. And that's how we're incorporating SDF SQL comprehension technology into DBT to create a next-gen DBT engine designed to be lightning fast, giving users rapid feedback to build and iterate quickly, while dramatically improving productivity and data quality in the process. Then Jeremy's going to share a market update on DBT Copilot, which is our native AI assistant that gives developers the ability to reduce their cognitive load and embrace AI. And then finally, Grace will share what's coming in the beta of the next minor version release for DBT Core 1.10, including features that promote faster and safer development to help users stay in their flow. All right, vroom, vroom. Let's do it. Over to you, Jeremy and Elias.
Thank you so much, Alexis, for that intro. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy. I'm a product manager here at DBT Labs, and I am the manager and coach of the DBT Formula One racing team. I'm here to give an update on the integration with the technology from SDF. And here to join me for this update and demo is none other than Elias DeFaria, formerly co-founder of the SDF Formula One racing team, but now a teammate of ours here at DBT. Elias, are you with me?
I'm here. Hope that was good timing because I
Perfect.
just made it just in the nick of time. It's great to be here, as an individual who was previously a part of the SDF F1 team. I can proudly now say we're contributing our new engine efforts to the DBT team with this fancy flag to prove it.
Well, it's very, very good to have you here, Elias. I know you've been hard at work in the car shop, tuning this new engine, getting it road ready, race ready. If you missed it, for the folks at home, a couple months ago, DBT Labs announced the acquisition of SDF Labs. Two teams become one, and we are here to win some races together for data teams everywhere. We've had a couple of exciting announcements and webinars along the way, and we're here today to give you an update on our progress, because SDF's technology is going to form the basis of the new engine for DBT with faster performance, optimized data platform costs, better lineage governance, all automatically when you run existing DBT projects. But we're here today to talk especially about developer experience. So we're going to show you some of this faster performance. Also going to show you a couple of other cool IntelliSense type things coming to, well, I think a DBT Cloud IDE near you. Elias, can you tell us what we're looking at here in this screenshot?
We are looking at a new feature powered by the new DBT engine. Specifically, this is the validation of SQL code without any execution against the remote warehouse. Furthermore, it's an understanding of exactly where that error is present in the SQL code and a presentation of that in line. So you can see here we're selecting a column event ZT, event ZT, date is not a real column, it doesn't exist. And as we were typing that out, the Cloud Eye showed us exactly where that error was present without running anything against the remote warehouse.
So you're telling me that through the power of SQL understanding, static analysis, we did not even need to take this car out on the racetrack. We were able to tell right in the shop that it wasn't road ready and say exactly where the error was.
That's precisely correct. No more driving just to determine the car doesn't work.
So that's going to save folks time. It's going to save folks fuel out on the roads. Uh, Very exciting to know that this is going to be coming to the tens of thousands of people who do their daily driving in the DBT Cloud IDE for their DBT model development. We know that there's also a lot of you folks at home who like to do your DBT development elsewhere, maybe locally, maybe on your own machines, maybe using another IDE of note. And we are very excited here for the first time to announce the official DBT extension for VS Code is on the way. Elias, what are we looking at in this screenshot?
We're looking at one of the best cars you've ever seen, just sitting there in the shop, a floor model. This thing, this meets most developers right where they do most of their work today with inline error messaging without sending that stuff to the warehouse again, real-time validation of code as you type it, a familiar lineage visualization, not linear, also a great UI and a great product. Um, uh, I don't know. I mean, I'm thrilled about this. I think this is a fantastic level up for many, many DBT developers out there.
Now, folks at home might be saying, okay, that's great. The floor model, nice to look at. Elias, do you think we could take this for a test drive here today?
I think we're ready for that.
Folks, let's get off to the races.
Okay, just gonna take over screen share here. Can you confirm you can see my VS Code window open?
I'm seeing VS Code. I'm seeing what looks like a DBT project open. Need for speed. So far, so good.
That's right. That's right. You know what we prioritize here on the DBT F1 team? We prioritize speed while preserving safe guardrails
Safety.
and safety for our
There
drivers.
we
We
go.
care about them deeply. So what we're looking at here is one of the critical DBT projects that powers our analytics when we're building a new engine to power your drivers. We got a model open here, car performance. This is an important one, as you can imagine. We want to know how our cars are performing out there in the field. Maybe it's first best to take a look at where this fits into our broader project by looking at the lineage. And there you go, just like that.
That's nice. And that's exactly the same kind of lineage view that folks have been used to seeing in the DBT Cloud IDE, DBT Explorer for years now.
Yeah, it is. Only difference, it's right there in VS Code and a little tab at the bottom. I think this is a really slick improvement to a lot of the DBT developer experiences I see out there,
Look, another standard fare part of any car that my analytics engineers would expect to drive is the ability to preview this model result. I'm guessing that's what you're about to show me.
That's exactly right. Par for the course, as they say. If I click preview here, yep, there's the data. We've got some interesting things like average lap time, average sector time, horsepower, weight of the car, right? And all of this is just a click away with a preview button. Though I know people are used to this kind of thing in the Cloud IDE. They use this feature all the time to preview the data. Yeah.
Hey, this is what folks are used to expecting from the DBT F1 team. But Elias, look, you're coming over to us from a very special, set of experts in racing car technology. I think you've got a couple special and maybe even a couple surprises to show us. Is
Oh,
that
we,
right?
we definitely do. But just remember, even we experts, we still got to build wheels and a chassis to get the car off the ground. So maybe let's move over to the race strategy analysis model to understand some of those more advanced features you might be talking about. So let's take a look at our lineage here. You can see that this strategy analysis model is looking at lap times, races, drivers. Jeremy, is there anything we might want to add to this analysis?
I feel like we want to think about cars too when we're looking at whether we're winning our races or not.
This is why we've got this guy, you know. He's the best of us. Let's add in a car performance CTE here to get some of that valuable data involved in our race strategy analysis. So let's go ahead and add this real quick. Okay.
Okay, and I see that while you're typing here, you're getting some autocomplete, like SQL, select from, and actually contextual autocomplete too, like car performance from the project.
Right. Yep. Yep. The new engine powers rich IntelliSense, both SQL and Jinja IntelliSense. It's all contextual. It understands your project, what's available in there. It also does the basics like SQL keyword autocomplete, right? Oh, shoot. You know, something else it does is that without sending this query to the warehouse, it's actually determined we've got an issue present. If I hover over this red squiggly line, looks like we've got a parsing error here. Any ideas what might be going on? It has something to do with tire performance, the CTE.
Look, I've taken enough cars down the test track to know a missing comma when I
Oh,
see one
man.
there on line 15. But it was pretty nice to get that red squiggly line up top and even the red highlight text over on the left in the file panel.
Yeah,
And
that's really wonderful, right? We can determine immediately when this file is not compiling. Um, Fantastic. So we got our lineage back initialized. We got our car performance CTE. Is there anything specific about the car performance you want to pull into this model to help us better understand the races?
look, I know you just previewed it to us a couple of minutes ago. I'm actually forgetting what columns
That's right.
are
That's
in
right. Yeah,
car
let's pull them
performance.
up here by just hovering over uh, the star there in our select. So are
That's
any of these
pretty nice.
columns of interest in the schema that's being displayed upon hover here?
Hey, hey, I'm interested in car manufacturers. I need to go renegotiate some licensing contracts for the team. And then maybe some of the attributes like horsepower and weight
That's
in kilograms.
fantastic. Great. So, and just to confirm, this is the schema of car performance that I just got from hovering on this star here, right? Another fantastic feature of the new engine. So let's go ahead and select those. You mentioned the manufacturer is important, so we can start by selecting that column. Okay. Yep. Oh man, looks like I misspelled it. Good thing the new engine caught that for me as I was typing it out, as opposed to having to go run this up against the warehouse and incur compute costs potentially. Um, Only to just know I was selecting a column and I misspelled manufacturer. Common mistake.
Well, hey, I'm glad the engine was there to help correct you. Let's get manufacturer and maybe the average of horsepower and weight in kilograms
That's
up and loaded.
You got it. So let's look at the average of you want the horsepower and the weight kilograms as average HP. Wait, how about that? How's that? Oh man, there it goes again. Yep. Well, I mean, I'm so glad I have this engine that's smart enough to even know when I'm misusing a function, right? And that's something we would call even lower than a parsing error. This is what we call a compilation error, right? Meaning we know that the function doesn't take in these parameters or these data types.
Hey, that's pretty impressive stuff. Not just knowing about the words, the validity of the syntax that you're typing, but actually understanding the road conditions, some of the other
Oh, yeah.
cars in the area. Okay,
The weather.
so the weather. Look, I mean, I wanted the average of two columns. You passed two columns into the average function. Average only takes one column as an argument. I think we're going to need two different
Let
lines
me
here, two different
remind you,
average columns.
I build the cars. I don't necessarily drive them. So I really
Understood.
appreciate your expertise here. Let's go ahead and pull that down into to a separate column there. Let's call that average weight. This one's gonna be average HP. Cool. Let's cast these both to integers. Good. Oh God, and there's one last one here. That's right. The new engine knows when a column is present in an aggregation context and needs to be included in a group by. Again, glad I'm not having to go run this up against the warehouse for a long developer cycle just to know something simple as that. And there we go.
All right, we're finally in good shape. And look, I would love to see the data now that we know, now that DBT is telling us that this SQL is valid and
Yeah.
going to run effectively.
Well, we've included a utility just for that. You can see this preview CTE command here. If I press this, it'll actually just run all the SQL up until this part of the model and preview the data produced by this CTE. So you see we've got our average horsepower here, our average weight. I know a lot of folks today have to kind of manually set up processes to effectively do what's like SQL debugging, right? To add a little debugger there, and we do that for you now.
And that's, first of all, so cool. I've lived a whole life of having to go down and edit that final select from to pick an earlier CTE. This is pretty nice, pretty convenient. But also, I just want to remind the folks at home, this is the first time that we have run any queries against the data warehouse. Everything up until then, all that validation was happening statically and in real time, very, very fast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. With no fuel wasted, because this is just using the fuel on my own machine here.
So, look, Elias, you've shown us some of the really nice stuff that we would expect from any kind of VS Code extension in terms of preview, in terms of lineage. You're showing us some really cool in-file contextual autocomplete. Is there stuff that we can do between multiple files, multiple models here,
Hmm.
based on the context of the project?
It's a really good question. You know, when you have a deep understanding of SQL, like the engine that's powering this does, um, it can power automatic refactoring, right? That's a huge thing. It can also understand and analyze the impact of your changes as you're making them. So I don't know, as you look at this project, do you see any opportunities for refactoring?
Yeah, I'm gonna say we care a lot about SQL and DBT modeling style guides here. I think you know that, the
Mm.
DBT F1
Yeah,
team,
yeah, yeah.
very stylish. So I see you've got an intermediate folder. I see you've got int underscore race results, but that car performance model is missing that prefix that would
Yeah,
conform to our style.
it's a great call out, you know. Again, we're living under the hood. We don't need good style. We're beneath the cars, you know. So let's make that change. I appreciate your style expertise. I'm gonna go ahead and just change this to int underscore. Oh, and there it goes. Yeah, the extension is telling me it's prompting me. It wants to refactor changes based on this modification. So if I press OK, that means that yes, our downstream selection of this ref has been auto updated for us based on the ref's new name.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
And I know you've told me the folks still working in the shop under the hood. We think that there's going to be some capabilities to do this even at the column level as well.
there will be. And same with the lineage, we will have column level lineage. Again, those folks literally underneath the cars right now building this stuff. We're very excited for that to be a part of the final product. Um,
So
you know,
I
maybe
know.
one mechanism to illustrate this, I should add, you know, earlier I misspelled manufacturer, you know,
Mhm.
happens. Maybe I'm tired of doing that. Maybe instead I want to alias this column to MFR. You'll notice though, the minute I save this, our race
Whoa.
strategy analysis model turns red. That's a real-time impact analysis of my change as I'm typing the code. So if I go down to that downstream model, I now see immediately, hey, there's no column here found, right? So I can just make these changes with confidence and understand if they have downstream impacts without going and incurring compute costs and running the models.
And if I understood you right when you were showing me some of this stuff earlier, you could now click on that column and jump all the way back to where it's defined in the previous model. Is that right?
Precisely.
Whoa.
Yep. So we've got go to column there. That even works within a file. So if I go to column in the same file and it's referring to CTE, that allows me to jump around, right? And again, just more proof points that we understand how the columns are connected in between each model.
This is going to do so much for driver safety for the folks on my team, making sure that they are, you know, navigating the roads, navigating the racetracks as best as possible. I have to ask the final question here, which is the thing I need to know.
Of course.
I need to know about speed.
You
Got a
gotta
need for
need,
speed.
I mean, it's the name of the project. You know, you gotta need for speed.
So, Elias, you can show me this project maybe, what
Yeah.
kind of parsing we're looking at, but I might even challenge you to show me a much, much bigger project after.
Okay, I get it. Well, let's start by parsing this one. I'll see if you're impressed. So I can run dbt parse here, and wow, that is fast. In just 100
Whew.
milliseconds, I've parsed this full project. I mean, are you impressed?
Hey, it's pretty good for one lap. I don't know if you know this. We're angling for the Grand Prix, so
Okay,
I'm
okay.
gonna need to see something a little bigger than that.
Well, let's step it up a notch. So this probably had 10 to 15 models. How about we try on 10,000?
Okay, let's see it in action.
That's right. It just parsed 10,000 models in under a second.
All right, Elias, thank you so much for taking us on this test drive of the new VS Code extension, the official DBT extension for VS Code. There's some really cool stuff in here, stuff that we would expect, stuff that might even surprise some folks at home.
Some stuff that might even let us win the Grand Prix, huh?
Okay, that was an awesome demo of the totally new DBT VS Code extension. You can develop locally with superpowers. This is now available in limited private beta, the very small number of DBT users. We're going to continue to bring in more participants into the beta over the coming weeks and months, and we'll be in touch with you if you are an eligible candidate. We're moving really quickly toward broader availability, and you all will be the first to know when that happens. So this new DBT engine is going to power a whole lot more than just that VS Code extension. But all in all, we're expecting a developer experience locally and in DBT Cloud with much faster parsing times, model name autocomplete, auto update, refactoring, go to definition, column names and types on hover, and that CTE level data preview. Very cool stuff. All of that is there to make the individual developer, the individual race car driver, that much faster and safer with their work. But this is also going to really benefit the entire DBT F1 racing team. See, we're going to be catching parsing errors without needing to hit the data warehouse, simple stuff like missing commas, but also catching those more sophisticated compilation errors that know about column data types and function signatures, again, without needing to send that query out to the remote data warehouse. And we're going to make sure that you are making the most of your fuel economy running those laps around the racetrack with more cost optimal orchestration that is state aware and column aware coming soon to DBT Cloud. So this new DBT engine, again, order of magnitude faster developer experience, optimizing data warehouse costs, and some exciting stuff that we plan to build on top of this engine later this year, like improved governance, metadata propagation, and classification. That's really exciting stuff. We have to tune and prepare the engine first, but man, oh man, is there a lot that we look forward to building on top of this. So that concludes this portion of the SDF integration update. Thanks again to Elias for joining me and coming on to share some of the really cool stuff that we've got planned. If you want to know more, you're going to have to join us right back here on May 28th for the 2025 DBT launch showcase. Okay, we showed you what's coming in a new engine, but what about the person who's in the passenger seat along with you in that race car? I'm talking about driver assist. I'm talking about DBT Copilot, now generally available for DBT Cloud Enterprise customers. I don't need to tell you that Gen AI is having a little bit of an impact on software engineering, and data engineering, analytics engineering is no exception. But AI is not nearly as valuable if it doesn't actually have the context on your data, your DBT models, their descriptions, their metadata, their relationships to other models in your project. So AI needs context, and that's what DBT's got. And DBT Copilot is these two things working hand in hand. To do what? Well, to help you with developing. Most of all, it's Developer Day. Remember, folks? There's some exciting stuff that we're also planning in terms of analyzing and talking with data in natural language, being able to generate tests, which I'm going to show you. But a lot of this is about taking that boilerplate or repeatable tasks and providing data analytics engineers and data analysts with a whole lot of scaffolding much faster than they would otherwise. Accelerating data work, delivering higher quality data, and then getting to focus on the really exciting stuff still to come. So don't take it from me, take it from Cody at Hard Rock. It says that this has completely changed how they approach documentation, query optimization, query explanation. But you don't have to take it from Cody either, because I've got some pretty cool stuff to show you today. Okay, I'm in the DBT Cloud IDE. I've got Elias's project here open, Need for Speed. We're doing some race car analysis. And I did a little bit of setup first at the account level to get set up with an OpenAI token that I'm going to use from DBT Labs, but I could bring my own. And Man, I'm looking at this model and gosh, I wish Elias were here to explain to me some of the stuff that's going on here because analyze strategy success, there's just so much. The really good news is I've got this handy dandy command B, and I can ask dbt Copilot something like, explain what this CTE is doing. And what it's going to come back with is a natural language, English language explanation of the strategy success CTE, analyzing the effectiveness of pit stop strategies for each driver in a race. And it's going to rank the strategies based on the number of pit stops. Fewer is better. The average pit stop delta, the amount of time they spend to assign a rank to each strategy. Hey, that's pretty cool stuff. Now, dbt is asking me if I want this explanation as code in my project. Not in this case, I don't. So I'm going to go ahead and reject that. But that makes me think there's maybe an opportunity to do some light refactoring of what's going on here. Now, this model doesn't look too complex, but I did notice that in the driver championship model, we've got, ooh, is that a correlated subquery? Not best practice, but I don't know if I have all the time to sit down and really try to rewrite this one from scratch. I'm just going to try something. Let's see if it works. I want you to refactor this code to replace the subquery with a CTE and a join. Let's see what dbt Copilot comes up with. Whoa. So we are now calculating fastest lap time per race in a separate CTE, and we're going to join that CTE in on the shared identifier rather than that nested and correlated subquery. I'm saving the change, and I'm going to try running that. And gosh, if it doesn't work on the first try, I'm going to go ahead and save. So that's some pretty cool stuff in terms of inline assistance. But of course, dbt Copilot also is going to do things like make it really easy to generate documentation. Let's see what it comes up with for team performance. This is especially nice if I've got no documentation at all in this model. And Elias, I don't think there's any documentation in this entire project. Okay, driver championship. It's telling me what the whole model is doing based on the SQL in that model and the context of the models it's selecting from, as well as descriptions for every single column in that model. I can go ahead and save that. I can also do things like generating tests. This is a staging model. I assume it's got a unique identifier in it, but let's see what Copilot is going to come up with. Okay, the driver ID, it's identified as the primary key, unique and not null. A little bit of an error there, but that's okay. Always deserves a human eye. It's called driver assistance, not autopilot after all. And then I'm going to try to do one more sort of cool thing here, which is auto-generate a semantic model. Now, see, I haven't started using the semantic layer at all in this project. I have no semantic models, I have no metrics, but I do have this race results intermediate model, and maybe there's some interesting questions that I can ask of it in a structured, well-defined, and governed way. Maybe a question like, I don't know, what's the average lap time per driver name? And I've got this query that I wrote down here. You can see all of them appear over here in the lineage, which is to query the average lap time grouped by the driver name. You can see that I was playing around with the syntax here a little bit. And look at that. Max Thunder has got the fastest average lap on the racetrack. So that's some of what's possible with dbt Copilot today in terms of inline assistance as well as code generation. We are really excited by some of the feedback that we've heard from beta customers already, talking about saving people a good chunk of their time, cutting the time it takes to review pull requests, and making it easier for people to understand and explain what's going on in their dbt models. That's driver assistance thanks to dbt Copilot. Last and not least, I'm going to be excited to welcome a very special guest, Grace Goheen, on stage to talk with us a little bit about what's coming to the framework, the core body of DBT in 1.10. Grace, are you with me?
I'm with you, Jeremy.
Grace, I believe you are down on the racetrack seeing how our new model of DBT Core is doing on those laps. I know the core team has been hard at work over the last few years, putting out a new model every 6 months or so. I'm hoping there are a couple exciting things you've got to show us in 1.10.
Yeah, we're gonna be taking 1.10 out for a test drive today. And there's two really big things that are coming for everyone in 1.10 under the same themes we've been talking about all day today, which is faster and safer DBT projects. Um, what's that?
Speed and safety.
Speed and
Absolutely.
safety. That's right. That's right. So with 1.10, when we're talking about faster, we are talking all about sample mode. If you've ever wanted to not build your entire data set when you're running your DBT project, 1.10 is going to come with a brand new sample flag to allow you to just build a subset of your data, which is really useful if you need to do faster iteration on your largest data sets in development or CI. So think about this as we're going to be able to run like the last 3 days of data, which we'll take a look at in a demo in just a little bit.
Excited to see it.
Now, with all this speed that's coming, we've also got to make sure we're driving safe here. So starting in 1.10, we're also going to start enforcing stricter validation to the inputs of your DBT project configurations. So this means things like what you can put as config, top level keys, and things like this. Historically, DBT accepts literally anything that you want to put into your project, which can cause some problems when you're trying to develop your data models. I don't know, Jeremy, if you are a perfect spelling wizard. I am personally not. And sometimes I misspell the configuration of description, for example, but description or description. And DBT actually accepts that. It just says, kind of silently fails and says, I don't know what you meant, but like, I trust you. And that can create problems in your project because you might try to use a config and you think you're using it correctly, but you're actually not. And we make this mistake all the time in our own internal analytics DBT project. I just fixed this a few weeks ago when I was testing out 1.10. So coming soon, we're going to start issuing deprecation warnings for these additional properties. And if you have a real deal intentional extra property that you do want to include, we're going to recommend that you move it under the official meta config, which will be the official place for custom user configurations.
It sounds like more details are coming soon, but hey, I can say back in my days as a race car driver, there was nothing more frustrating than thinking I was, putting into the correct gear and it was just the totally wrong input. So being able to get that fast feedback and not have something silently fail. And I can say as a coach too, who's now responsible for a whole team of drivers, no one's perfect. I see it firsthand every day.
All right, let's get into the fun stuff and give this 1.10 model a test drive here. All right. So I'm here in my DBT project all about our race cars, tracks and races and drivers. And I'm going to look specifically at my stage races model today. Jeremy, how many races do we do here? It's a lot, right?
Oh, it's got to be hundreds of them.
Thousands, millions even. We race all the
Millions.
time.
Worse.
So if I'm developing this stage races model, this might be a massive data set. And maybe I don't want to run this entire data set when I'm just trying to do some fast iteration here. So instead, I might want to just look at a sample of this races data. So
So
I'm going,
you're telling me like we're trying to understand a new kind of way of analyzing races. We don't need to be looking at races from 2017, 1998.
no, let's just look at like the last 3 days of data, and that should give us a good enough sense of whether or not the changes we're making are correct and our data is looking good. All right, so I'm going to try out the new sample flag to filter this down here, and we'll do a DBT run for stage races. And you'll see I'm doing sample here, and I'm just going to look at the last 3 days of data. So I'm going to do a relative time slice of data.
That's nice.
And if we look at what's going to compile here, you'll see that this source macro that's referencing the raw races data has been converted to a filtered reference to this relation. So it's going to look at my raw race data set, but it's going to add this where filter looking specifically at the last 3 days of data. And what it's using here is this date column from my source data, which if we go ahead and we look at what I've configured for this source, we can see that that is what I've configured as the event time for that source, which is essentially a configuration that we introduced back in 1.9 for things like microbatch and better comparisons in advanced CI, which essentially allows you to indicate at which time did this row occur. So for this case, date is at what time did the race occur, and that's going to be the field that's used when it's adding this where clause.
Now, I know I've been driving long enough to see some folks mod their cars to have a custom source macro do something along these lines, but it's pretty cool to see that this now comes standard in DBT 1.10.
That's right, and it works on the ref macro as well.
So you showed me last 3 days of data. What if there's like a very specific day of data that I know I want to be sampling? Maybe there's something weird that happened on that day. My car spun out. I know the lap times were all wacky.
Yeah, so we can also use the sample flag to look at a specific time slice of data. So let's do that here. Get an example. Did you have a specific like date in mind you're wanting to take a look at?
I don't know. I think January 27th was a tough one.
What year we looking at?
2025. Nah,
2025.
let's keep it current.
27th. All right.
27. That's right.
That's right. All right. And then how big of a time slice do you want to look at here? Do you want to look at a few days of data? We've got the start
Sure,
now. When do we want the end to be?
Let's go to the 31st. I think the end of January is my area of interest.
Big time for our races here at the track. Okay,
Now,
so
yeah, you've got some brackets. It's a pretty standard kind of structured data input, similar to what you've got in vars or other DBT command line flags.
that's right. So instead of just saying 3 days, I'm going to specify exactly what I want the start date and the end date of the sample to be. We'll give that a run, and we can see that this time my source macro is going to compile to a filter looking at those specific dates of data.
Folks, this is very cool. Grace did not know ahead of time that I wanted to look at January 27th to the 31st. Neither did I, in fact. But the fact that we can do it on the fly like this with no need for custom macros, vars being passed in on the command line, but just something that is a standard input now to DBT. And it sounds like this is going to get applied to any source or model that has that event time config defined on it.
That's right. So this is going to be the way to provide DBT with the information to be able to filter their data set. And in this case, I just wanted to do races because that's my time data set, and it's my largest data set that I really care about filtering down.
So it's great to be able to supply this on the fly, on the CLI in development. Let's say I want to do something as coach for all of my race car drivers to just say, look, whenever they're in dev, whenever they're in continuous integration, making sure that those cars are going to drive well on the test track. Let's just always do 3 days of data. Don't waste more fuel than you need to.
Yeah, so just like all flags in DBT, we can also set this via an environment variable. So a really cool use case of this is what you just described. If you have a CI or continuous integration job set up in your project, you could set a default for what you want DBT sample to be. So if we look over at DBT Cloud here, I've got a continuous integration job set up, and under my advanced settings, I've got an environment variable This one is called dbt_sample, and I can set a job override and set this to whatever I want the default to be. So in this case, maybe for every time I run in CI, I want anything with an event time configured to be filtered down to 3 days of data. I can go ahead and set a default here and not think about it again. So I don't have to use the flag every single time I do dbt run.
That sounds pretty sweet. And it's going to be a boon, not just to the individual drivers, but to racing teams everywhere to be able to set and forget this in
Absolutely.
the dev and sky environments.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanna call out that obviously this isn't gonna be perfect for every type of run that you want to do. Like if you're running in production, you probably don't want to sample your data down. Or if you're trying to test the entire data set, then this won't be quite the right use case for you. But this is going to really improve your ability to build quickly, iterate quickly, and kind of get your changes validated without spending unnecessary warehouse costs or wasting time waiting for your giant data set to run.
And maybe just to take a peek under the hood here, I know that this time-based sampling was the outcome of some really great community-based discussion and feedback sessions that have been happening over the last couple of months. Anything you want to shout out there?
Yeah, the feedback sessions that we were able to do with the community really provided context for what this flag should look like, what the interface should look like, what type of sampling we wanted to focus on. We're starting with time-based sampling, but we did a lot of discussions around representative segments and other types of sampling that we might add in the future. So it was really productive conversation with groups from the community.
Very, very exciting. So in terms of who can access this, it sounds like DBT Core 1.10, the new model of race car, is currently available in beta for test drivers everywhere. And some of this functionality, like sample mode, is already available to folks on the latest release track, race track in DBT Cloud. It'll be coming to the compatible and extended release tracks as soon as the 1.10 release is final in the next couple of months. So thank you so much, Grace. Once again, speed and safety for all our race car drivers. That's been the theme of our entire day here today. And I think with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Alexis to take us all over the finish line.
Thanks so much to Grace, Jeremy, and Elias for sharing all of these updates about how DBT continues to innovate to deliver best-in-class developer experience for our users. Thank you to everybody on the call for joining us today. Super exciting to be able to share these updates with you. Quick closing comments. The first is to make sure to join us for the 2025 DBT Launch Showcase. You can register now and make sure to have that space saved on your calendar for May 28th. We've also got another product-oriented update in the form of a Meet the CTO, Ask Me Anything with CTO of DBT Labs, Mark Porter. You can register and then also send your questions in advance of things that you'd like him to answer. You can schedule a one-on-one DBT Cloud demo just by clicking that orange button in the top right-hand corner of Goldcast. And again, we'd love your feedback on today's session. Let us know what you thought. Let us know how we can improve. And we really look forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you. Have a great day.